On a winter morning in 2014, a man drove to a low-gray government building in Mountain View, California. He had stood at its door once before, as a teenager, in line with his mother to collect food stamps, the government coupons that let a poor family buy groceries. This time he was not there for help. He taped a single sheet of paper to that same door, and on it he signed a contract. With that signature, Jan Koum sold the company he had built, WhatsApp, to Facebook for around $19 billion. It was, at the time, the largest sum ever paid for a startup backed by venture capital. The boy, who had once needed coupons to eat, had just become one of the richest men on Earth. This is how it happened.
Take a seat! This meeting has one item on the agenda. How a man who arrived in this country with nothing, who was rejected for a job by the very company that would one day hand him $19 billion, built the simplest app in the world, and refused, on principle, to ruin it. Most of the stories told at this table are about greed. This one is about the opposite. It is about a man who taped a note to his desk that said, "No advertising," and who turned down a fortune in easy money to keep that promise. Right up until the day a fortune too large to refuse arrived anyway. The minutes run 9 minutes. Stay for the lesson at the end.
Jan Koum was born in 1976 in a village outside Kyiv in what was then the Soviet Union. His family had so little that their home had no hot water, and his parents rarely spoke on the telephone because they assumed the state was listening to every word. That fear of being watched would matter enormously. Decades later, on the other side of the planet, in 1992, when Jan was 16, he and his mother emigrated to Mountain View, California, chasing a safer life. His father never made it over, and died years later, still in Ukraine. In America, the family was poor. They lived on government assistance. His mother babysat and swept floors, and when she was diagnosed with cancer, they survived largely on her disability payments. To help, a teenage Jan swept the floors of a grocery store himself, but he found something in America that the Soviet Union had never given him: a public library and cheap, used computer manuals. He taught himself networking and programming from those secondhand books, returning each one when he was done. By his early 20s, he was good enough to be hired by the accounting giant Ernst & Young as a security tester, and it was there, sent to inspect the systems of a young internet company called Yahoo, that he met a laid-back engineer named Koum and Acton. The two became close friends. Koum soon joined Yahoo as an infrastructure engineer, and he and Acton would work side by side there for nearly a decade. In 2007, both men, burned out and restless, walked away from Yahoo. They took most of a year off. They traveled through South America. They played ultimate frisbee. And then, like a lot of talented people in Silicon Valley, they started looking for the next thing, and they applied for jobs at the hottest company in the world. They applied to Facebook, and Facebook turned them both down. Koum Acton, with his usual calm, posted about it publicly. "Rejected by Facebook," he wrote, "but it was a great opportunity to connect with some fantastic people. Looking forward to life's next adventure." Neither man could have known that the company rejecting them would, 5 years later, write them one of the largest checks in business history. It was around this time that Koum bought an iPhone and realized that the brand new App Store, then only a few months old, was about to create an entire industry. He became fixated on an idea so simple it sounded almost too small to matter. An app that would show, next to each name in your phone's contacts, a little status: available at the gym. Battery low. In February of 2009, on his birthday, he incorporated a company to build it. He called it WhatsApp because it sounded like the phrase "what's up." The first version was terrible. It crashed constantly. It drained the battery. Almost nobody used it, and Koum, exhausted and broke, was ready to quit and go find a real job. It was Acton who talked him out of it. "Give it a few more months," he said.
I want you to sit with that for a moment. The richest idea of the decade, in its first weeks, looked like a failure that crashed every time you opened it. The man who built it wanted to throw it in a drawer and take a salary job. Nearly every great company you admire passed through this exact valley. The part of the story nobody puts on the magazine cover, where the only thing standing between the idea and the grave is a single stubborn friend saying, "Not yet." Remember that the next time something you are building looks broken and finished are not the same word.
Then Apple changed everything. In the middle of 2009, Apple launched push notifications, the technology that lets an app ping your phone even when it is closed. Koum updated WhatsApp so that when someone changed their status, everyone in their contacts was pinged, and people began using those status updates to message each other, one short line at a time. Almost by accident, Koum had stumbled onto the real product. WhatsApp was not a status app. It was a messenger. He leaned into it, and the user count exploded, climbing past 250,000. Brian Acton, now fully convinced, came aboard as co-founder, bringing in 5 former Yahoo colleagues who put in $250,000 of seed money. And Koum built the company around one fierce, almost stubborn principle, born from his Soviet childhood of being watched. He taped a note to his desk that read, "No ads, no games, no gimmicks." He refused to sell advertising because advertising meant collecting data on his users, and he hated the idea of surveillance. Instead, WhatsApp simply charged people $1 a year, no tracking, no billboards in your private conversations, just messages. The world took the simple green app and ran with it. In countries where text messages cost real money, WhatsApp let people send unlimited messages over the internet for almost nothing, and it spread like wildfire across Europe, India, Latin America, and Africa. In 2011, the famed venture firm Sequoia Capital invested $8 million. 2 years later, with the app still rocketing upward, Sequoia put in another $50 million, valuing WhatsApp at $1.5 billion. And the company stayed almost unbelievably small. While it served hundreds of millions of people, WhatsApp had only around 50 employees. A few dozen engineers were quietly running one of the busiest communication networks on the planet, with no marketing department and no sales team at all. The growth was not bought. It was simply earned, one person telling another, "This is better." By early 2014, WhatsApp had roughly 450 million monthly users, and it was adding them faster than Facebook itself ever had. Mark Zuckerberg saw exactly what that meant. A free, global, wildly loved messaging network was growing up right next to his social network, and one day, it could rival it. So in February of 2014, Facebook bought WhatsApp for around $19 billion in cash and stock. A team of fewer than 60 people had built something worth more than the entire value of most companies on the stock exchange. Koum's own stake was worth close to $7 billion. He joined Facebook's board of directors, and he went back to that welfare office to sign, because he never wanted to forget where he had started.
Minutes recorded. Before we adjourn, one question for the room. And do leave your answer in the comments. Jan Koum could have made WhatsApp rich years earlier, simply by selling ads, by harvesting the data of 1 billion people. He refused, again and again, because of a promise he made to himself. As a boy in a country where the walls had ears, in the end, the value was not in spite of that discipline. It was because of it. So tell me, when the easy money is right there on the table, do you have the discipline to protect the one promise that makes your work worth anything at all? Next meeting, a woman who started with $5,000 in savings, cut the feet off a pair of pantyhose, and built $1 billion empire without spending a single dollar on advertising. Spanx, subscribe, attendance is taken, minutes recorded, meeting adjourned.